One more thing that I hear all the time that actually makes a lot of logical sense, but when you look at the data, it's not quite true, or sometimes not true at all. And that is the percentage of the grade allocated to X culture in the total course grade and how it relates to performance. I often hear from professors and sometimes from students who say that, oh, my students tell me that for their team members, X culture accounts for only 10% of the grade, or sometimes even 0% of the grade. Whereas in my course, it's 35 or 40 or 50, or actually in my course, like in my real course, MSIB that I teach this semester, it's 100% of the grade. So for the students, X culture is the project. We do some pre-project training, post-project presentations, but basically for me, it's true 100% of the grade is allocated to the project. So now I looked at the data many times to see if really the percentage of the grade allocated to the course correlates with performance. And so here, let me first show you what I looked at. So I have data here, for example, from 2023 last semester. And so I added here two columns. So one of them is the grade reported by professors, or percentage of the grade allocated to the course as reported by the professors. On average, it's 33%. And then I also asked students, could you tell us what percentage of your grade is allocated to the project? And students give me somewhat different data. So they tell it's 38%, it's a little bit more than what professors say, but more or less, in that same realm. And I did the same thing for the current semester. So that's the current ongoing semester. So we only have a few weeks of data. Same thing. So this semester, on average, professors say that X culture accounts for 35.4% of the grade. And then students say that on average, it accounts for 37%, slightly more. And so I ran some correlations here for 2 semesters. And so I'll do the last semester's late track when we had a total of about 4,000 students. So first I looked at the correlations between what professors tell me, what the what percentage of the grade is allocated to X culture, and then what the students told me. And so overall, the correlation is 0.2, so not very correlated. Like for some professors, it's actually very close, like some students don't know apparently what it is, but sometimes it's actually somewhat different. Well, I guess it kind of relates okay. So 70-70, so some students said that it's 100%, but apparently for some students, like for example here, some students believe that it's only 5%. The professor says that it's 100%, so some students apparently are less knowledgeable, but yeah, and here somebody gave me 600%, not sure how that could be, maybe some sort of an error. But so I'm not sure which one to believe more. Are professors telling me incorrect, giving me incorrect data, or students, but assuming that it's about the same. So I looked at the correlations between what students report, X culture accounts in the total course grade in their course, and peer evaluations. Again, that's the second last week, and that's the post-project. And as you see, the correlation is 0. Like it is a perfect 0. Let me actually see if there are any fractions here. So yeah, like 0.04, 0.03. So, I mean, it essentially doesn't correlate at all. I mean, slight positive correlation, but it's not 0.4. It's 0.04. So essentially it's 0. I mean, like, yeah, so no correlation. If you think that my students would work harder because it's 100% of the grade, evidently that doesn't happen. Likewise, if somebody is at a university where team-based projects cannot be counted towards the final grade, and we have some like that from Europe, so they still do pretty well. And then professors who maybe report data more accurately in terms of what percentage, like 0.1. Again, let me see what the fractions look like. 0.13, 0.14. I mean, yes, the correlation is positive. It does relate to something, but these are very low correlations. I mean, they explain what, like 2% of variance, even less than that, right? So if you square that correlation index, nothing. And so again, for this semester, I don't really have the data for many weeks yet because we only had 2 rounds of peer evaluations. So the good news is that professors reported percent of the grade and students reported percent of the grade correlate pretty well, 0.5. Students sometimes still get it inaccurately, but at least, this is a little bit closer to, to one another. But then again, based on the students' reports, There is no correlation. So whatever students think X culture accounts in their course, it doesn't correlate with their peer evaluations. So like zero effort difference. When you look at what professors report, the correlation is zero point 0.2. So let me look at the fractions here. Yeah, like 0.18, 0.2, yeah, around zero point 0.2. So that for the first 2 weeks. Yeah, this is positive correlation. It's probably statistically significant given the sample size, but it's not really that great, not really that high. So when students come to me and tell me that, hey, professor, for me it's 100% of the grade, but I have someone on the team who has only 20% of the grade allocated to X culture, 10% of the grade, or maybe even less, I don't really start panicking because I know those things are not really predictive of the actual effort. Now, the rules at X culture, very important. The rules do not allow less than 20% of the course grade allocated to X culture, unless university policies prohibit this, and sometimes that happens. And as you can see, again, most professors do allocate about 37%, 35%, so pretty much all professors abide by that. But even in those rare cases when it's somehow less and I didn't catch it and professors couldn't allocate more, really not that much of a deal. So really not that much of a deal. So again, if students complain to you about that, I would not make a scene out of it like, oh, poor you, for you this matters so much and for others it doesn't. X culture is not only about cultural differences, it's also about institutional differences. And when you have a global virtual teams, when you have them, I don't know, in the corporate world, yes, people at a different company from a different country, or even the same company but a different subsidiary, they may have a different manager, they may have a different set of performance standards, performance indicators, they may be evaluated differently, they may have different standards, just like here. So yes, for some professors or for some students or for some corporate employees, the project on which students will, or on which employees are working on as a team, for some it's a top priority project and your entire salary depends on success of this project. For others, it may be one of 10 projects, maybe not a priority, or maybe, one the person does on the side. So these differences will always exist, especially in global virtual teams context. And so I wouldn't try to make students feel that they have a bad team because for them X culture accounts for more percentage in the total grade than for their team members. These differences, as I said, are inevitable in the real world, and it's not a problem in X culture based on the data. And it's actually a good thing based on the learning opportunities and experience. Because in real life, they will also see these institutional differences. And so here they get a more realistic preview of what it is like to work with people from different countries. So it provides for a more educational experience, for a more realistic preview of working in global virtual teams. As long as you explain it to the students, hopefully they will actually appreciate these differences. They will appreciate that they are exposed to yet another challenge of working with people from other cultures so that they know what to expect in the future. They know how these things can play out. They try and learn what might be, the best strategy to deal with these differences. And I wouldn't see a problem sharing with them some of these numbers and saying, hey, you know what, maybe it's not really that much of a difference. I mean, yes, you want to blame this, problems in performance of some students on something, but it doesn't look like it's the percentage of the grade allocated to X culture. It could be personality, it could be who knows what, cultural intelligence, other things, but definitely not the grade of the percentage of the grade allocated to the project.